Fiber optic cables. We often hear this word floating around electronics, but what are fiber optic cables and how do they really work? Well, first, we must understand that fiber optic cables are just like regular wires where an electric current passes through. Except the energy that passes through fiber optic cables is not in the form of electricity, but instead light. Before we go into how fiber optics work, let's see some examples first to get a real good idea. Fiber optic cables come in all different shapes and sizes. They come from decorative lights to cars. Yes, these old telephones use fiber optics too. Even high-tech military equipment uses them. But in this video, we will only be talking to you about one use of fiber optic cables. No, we won't be talking about this, even though it looks pretty cool. Or this, whatever this is. Today we will be talking about the telephone. It seems like it's been around forever, but it hasn't been that long since it was invented by Alexander Bell. Alexander Bell spent most of his life researching hearing and speech, and finally he made his breakthrough in 1876, where the first successful phone call was made. Though 150 years have passed and phones look different and more modern, inside they are practically the same as when Bell made his first phone call. It all comes down to how it works, the mechanism which uses fiber optics. Let's first understand how a telephone works. When you speak on the phone, the sound waves travel into the microphone. The microphone, which is essentially a transmitter, receives the sound waves and converts the sound into an electrical signal. The electrical current then travels further down the wires into the provider's hub, where the electrical current is converted again, but this time into light. And this is where fiber optics come into play. The light travels through fiber optic cables all the way to the person you are talking to, where the light is then converted back to electricity and then back into sound. All of this happens in undetectable amount of speed. But how can light pass through a wire? I mean, the wires that connect countries can't be perfectly straight, and we all know light travels in a straight line. The wires, in fact, are not straight at all. They bend everywhere. But then, how can light pass through inside a wire, even though it is bent all over the place? The light reflects all the way down the wire. The effect is called total internal reflection. To understand total internal reflection, we must understand refraction. Refraction happens when light speeds up or slows down. In the diagram, light is going through a dense medium, water, to a less dense medium, air. Light is speeding up. We see light speeding up or slowing down by bending. When the light speeds up, like shown in the diagram, it always bends away from the red line, also known as the normal line. Now, if the incident ray, the ray that is coming in, speeds up and the angle of incidence is at the critical angle, the light refracts, but it also reflects at the same angle that the incident ray came in. The critical angle varies between mediums, so it can be bigger or smaller depending on the material. Now, if the angle of incidence is larger than the critical angle, the light no longer refracts, but instead only reflects. Light is emitted at one end of the wire. As light hits the less dense medium, since the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, the light reflects. This happens millions of times, and no matter what the bend on the wire might be, it is constant. These fiber optic cables connect our entire planet. They even cross a great deal of distance under the sea. The boat pictured above is just one of the thousands that are used to set up the wires. The only problem is every time light reflects, a short amount of light is lost in the process and is absorbed by the material that is reflecting it. So every dozen kilometers or so, a booster is put into place. Its job is to boost the signal so eventually the sound you hear on the other end of the telephone sounds the same as the sound that is being emitted from the original side. Fiber optic cables have a huge amount of capacity. Just one tiny fiber optic cable can contain hundreds of simultaneous conversations. The telephone, one of the most powerful and important inventions of all times, used to and continues to keep our world connected. Thanks for watching.